Hi, Mark.
Good day. How are you?
Pretty good, thank you. How about you?
I'm well. I'm just booting up from sleep.
Okay.
Can't even type yet.
Hmm?
I can't even type yet.
Ah,
So, just gonna wait. Hopefully more people will join.
so I've just got to take this, so I'll be with you in a
All
sec.
right, go for it. Hi, Brian.
Hey, good afternoon.
Mike just had to take a phone call, so he went offline. We're giving people a couple of minutes to join. Oh, more people today. Well, folks, we're just giving people a couple more minutes to join.
Hey, Mark.
Hi.
Hello, everyone.
This pull request that I was hoping to look at today actually is from Mateusz, I believe, but I don't know, he hasn't been joining for the last couple of weeks. We can try and take a look in his absence. I also have a suggestion that if you attend these calls, you should probably at least monitor what's going on the Whimsy mailing list, because they are sort of our closest cousin. Hi, Yogesh.
Hey, good morning, Mark.
Yogesh, we have our repo.
Yeah.
Now we need to populate it with some kind of a template, and I also need to understand what is the deadline for submission. It must be
Yeah,
close.
I think we have time. Let me check that real quick. I think because Just give me a sec. I'm checking.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think it's 20th October.
October 20th. Okay, so
Yeah,
we still have
October
about
20th. Yeah.
3
So we have
weeks.
about
Okay.
2.5 weeks. So I've got your email.
Mhm.
I will start populating stuff of interaction with how do we interact with rats. I think we have some reference material, right? In terms of interaction with relying party. How
Well, we do, and so I wanted to talk about this today, because I'm basically trying to understand how to phrase the informational draft submission in such a way that it's most likely to be impactful to rats. Now,
Yeah.
you are active in rats, so your
Mm.
opinion here is very important.
Sure. I will help to the best. Yeah.
Right.
And I think we should have a presentation at least for 10 minutes in the rats working group.
Mhm.
So, and we should prepare, once we have the draft, then we can have associated slide deck. Because then when we can connect that we can connect the link between workload identity, the trusted workload identity, which we are doing here, and how it connects with rats.
Yeah.
So we need to explain that and then say,
Right.
hey, here's the draft. If anybody wants to coordinate
Yeah.
and comment, then they
Okay.
can read the draft. Yeah.
So I want to talk about sort of then today about sort of the main sections in the draft and sort of the main the points it needs to hit. And so by the time of a template, we'll have something to fill it in with.
Yeah.
So I'm trying. I was trying to come up with sort of the high order bits, and I'm also presenting to the COCO effort this Thursday on trustworthy workload identity. So Sam Ortiz has reached out and asked me to talk to them, and I was thinking about what should I tell them, because these people, they're doing confidential containers, so they already sort of understand most of it. And the two main points I wanted to hit were that sort of data isolation, which confidential computing plays into, of course, is a whole of enterprise concern. This is sort of the first high order bit, that most workloads don't actually talk to humans. Most workloads talk to other workloads. So when data is exchanged in an enterprise, it's, vast majority of it is between workloads. And if you have things around, you need to know where can PII go, or data sovereignty requirements, or making sure that only certain workloads can access your payroll database, which is sort of my poster child. You need to do that throughout the enterprise. And the second thing I wanted to impress on them was that, and perhaps on rats and IETF as well, is that it is unacceptable for us to have one workload identity for legacy workloads and another workload identity mechanism for confidential workloads, right? And if you're talking about regular versus confidential workloads, your boot count and the version of your firmware simply don't play into that, right? And so what we want instead is we want to start with the empathy for the relying party, which is, I want to know that this is my payroll application, and this is my HR application, and that it runs in Germany, and perhaps it's cleared for PII. These are business concepts, right? And somewhere along the way, we need to map evidence into these business concepts, and this is what I'm hoping the informational draft will achieve. I just don't know if that's enough. Saying, look over here, we have a problem. It probably is not enough for the informational draft. We should probably propose something, right? So anyway, so that's where I am. Hi, Hank. So you're joining just now. We're talking about our upcoming IETF contribution. I was hoping to talk about the pull request and provenance. Maybe we'll get around to it. It is Mateusz's write-up, and I don't want to do it without him. Maybe I'll just shoot him a private email and say, hey, join next time. But IETF is our next imminent target, being the deadline being 3 weeks away. Manu.
Yeah, so hello everyone. So two things. You said you're presenting to whom? Coco? Who's Coco?
I believe so. Kara Containers also, I think, is their name. It's Sam
I see.
Ortiz.
It's a confidential containers project. Coco is a confidential containers project. Yeah.
So it is a confidential computing thing, but for containers.
It is. Yeah, it's
for
focused for containers.
Yeah, it's part of the CNCF.
Cool. And then, so I think your poster child use case, I mean, I keep coming back because you talk about the payroll application. The payroll application is very much like the JPM, workload with your data in it and all that. I think we need to extend that and talk about, a workload that holds some of my secrets as a customer of JPM. And so thanks, because that's the agentic, use case, a workload acting on my behalf that shields information from both the cloud service, from actually all actors, the cloud service provider, a SaaS provider that JPM may be relying on, and then JPM insiders themselves, and a workload that can keep my secrets, my credentials, my information. Because if we don't do that, we're just gonna, just like you said, we don't want to have two types of identities for confidential workload and non-confidential workloads. We don't want different type of identities for JPM's workloads and then agentic workloads that act on my behalf. So I think we need to approach the most elemental use case of, and then relax, requirements. If it is a JPM workload, I think like you had said, you taken the example that a JPM verifier may not need to run in a confidential computing environment because you could put it in a server, in a cage, in a private data center. But that of course is something that only JPM can do. So we need to take the elemental thing and then relax it, so that it can adapt to all kinds of, today's use cases, while protecting the ultimate one. That's my perspective.
Okay. It's certainly valid. I want to just see how it would manifest itself in a draft. But yeah, we can certainly consider the wording to that effect. I also agree that you start with the best security you can imagine, and then you make relaxations as as your environment demands.
Cool.
Okay, so let's see. So yeah, we need the template so we can start filling it out. And perhaps if we could spend a little bit of time today trying to understand sort of the overall structure of the draft. I started this document yesterday, which is like a complete sort of. I just wanted to have some text on a page. That perhaps can be the start, but I just basically said, okay, what should we say in this draft? And you can quickly glance over what I said here, but maybe it's just the main sections that we should focus on right now.
Mark, can you
Zoom
please
in?
post on the link of the
Yeah,
draft
of
on
course.
the chat
Of
window so
course.
that we can also, I will review it as well offline as well, and then
this was just whatever I wanted to throw inside the inside the draft, but it's basically saying, look, you need workload identities. You have thousands of legacy applications. You have third-party offerings. You need uniform deployable manageable foundation. And the deployable and manageable is my biggest criticism of confidential computing right now. And that's where I'm basically saying, if we commit as an organization to assign workload identities, in accordance with Whimsy architecture, for instance, doesn't have to be, but it's a good example. For confidential computing, you still need to end up with the same kind of identity, but you also need to employ remote attestation in your credentials issuance path. So again, feel free to comment, edit at will. This was just me trying to have something as a starting point. Yeah. Okay, so what else should be I understand the general stuff, INA considerations, security considerations. Let's not talk about that references. I want to talk about fundamentally the main body of this draft. And again, I'm primarily looking to Yogesh and Hank to help guide this because you are most up to date on what's going on inside RATS.
Yeah. So one thing sorry, go ahead. Hank, go ahead.
Oh, Yeah. So, too polite. No, nobody's speaking. The notes, the minutes tell me location for template. I am looking at the confidential computing organization right now. Is this a location? There is already the twi rats.
Yeah, that's what we got it yesterday only. Monday only we got a new repo after multiple follow-ups. So I have to populate it, which I will do it later today, but with the template. Or Hank, you have the bandwidth.
Someone gave me the power to create new repositories on the CCC organization. That is new. I don't know why I have this power now, but I have the power.
Wow.
And I don't know how that happens. I can also delete existing ones.
That's even dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. But having said that, and I'm not complaining, so in emergency cases, being able to do something is nice. The twi rats, is that our location?
Yeah.
Is that where we want to set it up? Because
Yes.
I prefer names that are the draft name, but it's okay. We can, because there might be more than one twi rats document. And it is good practice to have one document per repository. And then you start with try rats and then try rats something more specific, and that is weird. So first of all, draft name is, I think, something we have to agree on early when we do not a template, but the initial document. So Mark, what you wrote up here to you had this nice name of the horror of the empty page, Horror something.
Right.
So you wrote this up to make that go away. I love it, and also it's expected because you brought that up. And what would you think is in a few words, the subject here of this document?
All right. So the subject is that for confidential workloads, we need to okay, let me actually maybe even type these things right now. So we like sort of, major point one. For confidential workloads, we need to obtain credentials that are generally compatible and interoperable with existing legacy, at this point I'll call them, workload credential architectures.
Ecosystems.
Such as WIM, architectures/ecosystems.
Yeah.
Okay.
Schemes is quite a good name in this context. Word in this context.
Schemes. Okay, so we'll just right now just throwing, but we'll trim later, right? So that's number one. So we have two modes. Okay, I do not know how to say this. Two modes of doing so. One, and this is what we discussed in. If you remember, we did this document called Twi for Rats. So this is basically what we can use for that content. Please open quicker. This is where we basically said you have attestation results give you the credential, or attestation results are exchanged for credentials. So this is from Twi for Rats.
Yeah, we should be able to definitely describe both the models, the passport model and the background check model. And we should be able to explain the credential dance with remote attestation.
Right. So that would be number two. And we don't really need to talk about sort of TWI specific things. So in there is reference architecture in TWI in terms of credential provisioning, credential procurement, and credential usage. That doesn't matter here because here we're primarily focused on one thing: how do we get a credential out of a verifier, or with the help of a verifier, and maybe we can make an actual proposal information draft for how to do this. I do not know if we could do that in 3 weeks. But again, this is where I'm looking to you, Yigesh and Henk, in terms of how do we make the biggest impact towards getting this, getting rats to budge.
So what is your goal? Is your goal for verifier to issue the credential, that kind of a model, or there is a separate entity which relies on attestation to check
My
that these are the security characteristics
my
which
preference would be to do fewer round trips,
okay.
right? So, and again, this is a good time to jump in and prove me wrong. In which case, I would basically say, I need a format. Maybe there is an entity attestation token or some other way of making it possible for
Mhm.
the verifier to give me credentials. Now, then we need to think about what this means, because in case of, if I'm getting a certificate, then somehow my submission of evidence to the verifier needs to contain inside of it a CSR, right? Because that's the only way I can actually get a certificate. And the verifier needs to work with some sort of CA. Or maybe verifier acts more like an agent in Spiffy and gives me back a JOT. Either way, but we need to, perhaps propose something, I guess.
Yeah. I see we should propose 2 or 3 options of how it can be done and deployed, because in certain cases you are folding kind of 2 roles, in my view.
Yeah.
And which is not wrong. I'm not saying that, which is a good option to do. Like a verifier whose job is to verify the attestation coming from a confidential workload.
Yeah.
With the platform, it is doing that, and then you're saying I'm assigning that further responsibility of credential issuance on the same verifier. That's one model. We can certainly
Yeah.
explain that. Second model could be that the attestation verifier just verifies the attestation and gives the workload related details to a relying party, and then relying party see, okay, the attestation is great, let me issue a credential. Or relying party delegates that credential issuance to a third party who issues the credentials based on the results of attestation.
Okay.
That's another model.
Should we just quickly write those down?
Yeah.
Okay, let's
So
go.
I deliberately said Twix
Oh,
because it is a trustworthy workload identity exchange. You request, you respond.
Okay,
It's like
okay.
PKIX, but it's Twix. It's a pun. I know. It's bad. Writer is not Twix. I don't know. In
I can
Germany.
see Hank in a good mood today. Yes, certainly.
No, I mean good. I mean it's a good
Yeah,
it's a good marketing trick to give something a catchy name.
Yeah, and we can change it. It's a working title, right? So,
Yeah.
but I hear that we are doing the same thing as issuer and CAs do, but with REST and for workloads. So it's a trustworthy workload identity exchange based on REST. So it's
Yeah.
basically.
And by the way,
based on-
trustworthy workload identity in and of itself is outside of the informational draft we did in Madrid, is not an IETF construct. So we'll probably need to perhaps revive it or
Could you rephrase that please one time more for me? I might
TWI is not a RATS construct. Like
yeah,
it's not an IETF construct. We don't have a TWA working group inside of IETF, right? We're not like Whimsy. So this means that if we bring the TWI into IETF, into RATS, then we need to carry with it sort of at least the bare bones of our definitions.
And what is our goal with this draft? Do we want to make it like a draft permanently adopted by IETF as a proper normative guidance, or what is the goal, or just an information?
Well, the ultimate goal is to have somebody build verifier that does this. Right. The intermediate goal is to have a standard in RATS that instructs someone how to build this. And this perhaps is the stepping stone towards that.
Okay.
Now, if we believe that inside this working group we can develop and defend and get to RFC status, stand like an RFC under the RATS working group, fine. You guys are closer to this. Maybe we need to do another BOF at in Montreal that focuses just on that. By the way, who is going to be there in person? I'm trying to decide if I should get in person or remote attendance. Anybody planning to attend?
I'm not traveling that far. budget constraints through the organization. So I will be definitely attending remotely.
I'm trying to
Anybody-
decide too whether it's worth going. So I don't know.
Yeah, so this is I will finish this year joining my IETF meetings as I've been doing the last 15 years. Next year, actually, I will have to reassess if I will join all IETF meetings. I don't know yet, but this is Montreal. I guess I will still join. Yes.
Mhm. Fair enough. Okay, so let's see.
And by the way, you mentioned find somebody who builds something like this. This is what we have built. We built a verifier that issues a credential to a workload, and that credential can be practically anything because the workload can then, based on the credential it gets from the verifier, can create any identity format that it needs to deliver to the outside world.
Okay, that's interesting. Is it an open source work we can reference in the draft?
It is not at this point, but and that's the challenge that we have as a startup, is to figure out how we bring that and how we participate in this work without exposing our IP too much in the beginning. So, but things are moving fast on our side, so it may well be that it's going to be open sourced in early next year or something like that.
Okay, so I think by the sound of this, making a proper draft and call for adoption in the RATS working group would benefit the community. That's my take, but maybe Hank would love to hear from him.
So when so Manu had presented the hierarchy of verifiers, and it has the verifier composites, and I think that's a complex remote authorization. Sorry, obviously that's a Monday meeting thing. These hierarchies issue identity documents to each other upstream, and I think having that in an abstract form here that is not disclosing any of your vital IP, Manu, might be something you can live with. Yeah.
I agree, Hank. And this is exactly the line that I'm trying to toe and figure out a way to bring these concepts to light.
Yeah.
And I'm more than happy to, just like I presented it and we have a recording and a video, more than happy to try to articulate those concepts, because I think they are actually necessary. There's something, I'm sorry to just use 2 minutes here, but I mentioned the agentic stuff. In our work with NATO, the thing that's popping up now is in the information age and with AIs involved, what's going to be super important is in fact learning loops. When an AI can learn from its interactions with other AIs or other workloads or sensors or things in the real world, like a car or nuclear metering at a nuclear power plant. And so what you do need in that case is in fact this symmetrical model that I presented, where Alice and Bob can both verify one another, because the information that needs to come from the edge, right, back to the AI to train it in a continuous learning loop needs to have integrity, provenance, integrity, confidentiality, and of course privacy when it's, JPM customers. So the learning loop aspect of the intelligence era is actually creates a symmetrical, challenge where both parties need to be attested and verified. And that's where I think, Hank, this hierarchical architecture of verifiers deliver a model that works for those learning loops. And that's one of, by the way, I actually proposed, and Mike, that's why I had proposed that to the CCC board also. I think we have a role to play here in enabling end-to-end bidirectional trust between different workloads in a way that can enable globally trustworthy learning loops for AI in general.
When you talk about the hierarchy and the emission of credentials, point 2 here says 2 modes. So there's a background check model and the passport model in general. So just rough delimitation. Could you remind me again what you would prefer here? What's closer? Which model is closer to your design?
Yeah. So once a workload is verified in our world, because all workloads in our world exist in confidential computing environments, so in TEs, they can protect their own secrets. So and because we don't want to have a dependency on, you know, a 6, a 9 attestation and verification network, once a workload is verified and per the policy of, you know, the expiration of its credential and stuff like that. But if a credential has been verified and comes back up, for instance, and the attestation service is not available, it has a secret key. So it is able to then decrypt its own information independently of the attestation network. So in that case, it looks like a passport, because essentially the credential has kept, you know, the identifiers for all its relationship with other workloads. It has kept, you know, keys to authenticate itself to other workloads. In fact, because it's always TEs to TEs, we have symmetric keys, what we call relationship keys between workloads that are, you know, wrapped by each workload. But then in the case of discovery, or not discovery, but introduction, when two workloads have to be introduced with one another, then we go through the attestation infrastructure, and that looks like a background check in some way, because there is a key exchange that needs to be established. So you need to go back through the verifier network and then make sure that the other workload exists in the same, you know, verification infrastructure, which is kind of a background check. But it's a background check that essentially only guarantees that both workloads are under a verification regime, if you want, that is within the same verification network, so that they don't have to worry about. They can rely on the verification network to get assurance that the other workload is equally verified and capable of managing its own credentials. So it's a combination of both. But the primary model is a passport model, because really workloads, I mean, assuming that the environments are somewhat secure, right? And that you don't want to do attestations over and over again for the duration in between two attestations and verification events. Each workload is completely autonomous and independent. It has its own, you know, keychain, and it has its own keys to authenticate itself to other workloads. Which from a resilience and scalability issue, we believe is absolutely critical. And we've experienced that ourselves when our verification network collapsed at some point because of stupid bugs that we had left. The leaves of the workloads that were tested and verified, the children, what we call the agents for us, those agents continue to function even when the verification network was collapsing. So, and then of course, until their credential expired, and then at that point, you know, the whole mesh actually collapsed. But that's you know, that's the model. Sorry, that makes sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I like that you do the onboarding with the background check and the everyday interaction with the passport. I think that's actually how those two models are intended to be used mostly. Yeah. When I look at them, like the passport model is for the drive-by. Here's my attestation result, and the background check is for the people who don't really believe in verifiers that are not your own. You have to do it yourself. And by the way, Manu, let me quickly finish. So
yeah, sorry.
There is this thing. So that's my advice how to contribute the demarcation line that's not too IP-ish here to explain how you're using the models. Yeah, and because that will actually directly address the subject that Mark wrote down in point 2, and it's also our first use case, right? You can writing the first use case here, and then there can be others, and then there will be a pattern between all these use cases relatively quickly, I think. And so if you're comfortable with that, Manu, I think that my recommendation would be to maybe write a few paragraphs for these this everyday I'm talking to you passport modes, and the I don't know you, who are you background check mode, where workloads get to know each other, and then we can test how this works with the modes and the structure of the document. Does that make sense?
Yes, I'm actually very grateful that you identify, maybe what may be the path indeed for us to be able to be more active at the ATF. So this is a great recommendation. I'm sorry that I interrupted you. The one thing also that I wanted to mention that we thought was interesting from a directional point of view or alignment with confidential computing is that we realized that this passport model that we use with a symmetric key that each workload is maintaining so that it can encrypt its own information space, it very much extended the concept of sealing that we already identified, is in this group that was actually an important feature for ephemeral, very short-lived workloads. So this concept of sealing is important so that a workload that only exists for a short amount of time can just retrieve its own things for each platform independent chip. What we needed in a cluster of platforms, in a cluster of workloads that all run the same code, we needed an equivalent, secret key that was shared across all the instances so that they could all access encrypted information, even if the verified network was down. So there's this password model with a symmetric key is both the password model that we discuss here, but also an extension of sealing from one platform to multiple platforms in a cluster of machines. And so that philosophically made us realize that there's probably something correct here. And by the way, it's an extension of DICE also. And I don't know if you guys are in the DICE working groups, but I know that Ned is very, anchored in there. DICE is also functioning, starting with a secret and then deriving keys, then it does a public-private key pair, but, you have that extension of DICE starting with a symmetric secret or a seed, I think it's called in DICE. Then you have the sealing key that exists at the platform level, and then you have this, what we call the STEM IDs, which are these STEM keys essentially, or derivation keys for the cluster of platforms. So there seems to be a pattern here that repeats itself that is architecturally very pleasing.
All right, let me ask a framing question, because I think this will determine how we go about authoring this. Do we see, and I really like this Twix, Hank, because it really focuses on specifically the thing, the exchange. So what do we do within RATS to get a TWI? I don't think I want to create another seal or another whimsy, another working group. It's just, it would be like drawing like on a very thin pool of talent already. But I think I would like RATS to publish a document like an RFC that specifically focuses on this. So should we then make this an opening salvo in getting RATS to adopt TWI, in which case this becomes a first in a series of informational drafts that we develop over next several IETF sessions to actually look to perhaps standardize it? Or do you see another path for this?
When we create a document, it doesn't really matter how you do it. I think it's a nice way to do it in an internet draft because you have the scaffolding and you also have the side benefit of where you have an internet draft and you can pursue the venue in the IETF. So I would say even if we decide against it, that doesn't really bother us. We can still publish it as a Linux Foundation document. I don't know, but starting it in the IETF doesn't seem to be a problem to me.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's
there is
actually
a
platform.
close vertical with there is a close connection with RATS, right? Because this whole trustworthy workload identity, there is one foundation pillar is remote attestation. So it would be very prudent to present this work in RATS because there is a strong connection with RATS. So, now whether we go with the RFC or not, we can check we can gauge the interest also, Mark, in the presentation as well as how do the people connect to this problem? Do they see a value of this, making it as a informational RFC or a normative spec? We can take that feedback and we can make a call there as well.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's perfectly fine. The thing I wanted to then focus on for the last 20 minutes, let's document some of our discussions we had here Again, you have the link in the chat. I don't need to be doing all the typing, but
Yeah.
let's sort of get something that we can
Yeah.
develop very rapidly over the next 2.5 weeks into a draft.
Yeah.
What do you feel are the high order bits that were discussed that we need to capture?
I think if we need some kind of interaction models to present, and I think you have already 1 and 2 there. We can expand on them with the
Okay, well,
diagrams.
let's get concrete. How would we expand on them?
Yeah, message sequence, flows, actors, their roles, what they present, confidential workload, running in a TE confidential VM or confidential TE wants to get a credential. How would the credential issuer understand that I should issue the credential to it now? So based on where it is running, what is the trustworthiness of the ecosystem where it is running, and then it checks the platform bit. The verifier checks the confidential computing characteristic of the workload.
Yeah.
And once it is fully and it checks the binding as well. And once it is fully kind of assess the trustworthiness, then can issue the right credentials. We
I
can say
can't
that.
type as fast as you're talking.
No,
So
don't worry. I will write that all down actually. Yeah.
Okay, you will.
Yeah, don't. I will write down. Yeah.
And Manu, you perhaps want to do the same thing while the
Yeah.
the thoughts are fresh in your head, because again, once we have it in the document, then editing is actually the easier of the two.
Yeah.
I think it's just creating content
Yeah.
is what's right. So, do we feel we need to bring any of the older content in there, like our definitions? Does it matter? Do we, because I usually see that informational drafts usually reference other ATF documents, not something on Google Drive somewhere.
Yeah, we can certainly add references in the ITF. There is a nice section on references. We can certainly refer to existing docs. I think we can always refer to your TWI document.
Or we can refer to like documents, MD documents in GitHub, right? From ITF drafts.
Yeah.
Definitely. Okay, that's great. Because I would like to not carry additional text burden if it's just duplicate.
Yeah. We don't need to duplicate. We can just make a reference to the document from where we are importing the concepts. Yeah.
Okay, so we talked about several options for exchange. Should we talk about the transport mechanism in this draft? So, like thinking about maybe specializing the entity attestation token for this, or some other, like what's your feeling on the best way to carry the or maybe suggest implementation or suggest transport?
So if we use, like, what about Yogesh?
Yeah, I mean, we can always refer to the existing drafts where the evidence can be conveyed, where the platform evidence and a workload evidence can be conveyed in a conceptual message wrapper, and they can be two different type of evidences. One from the platform, like it's running on a genuine hardware, and the workload could be another e token which has a workload measurements or workload, and then how the binding happens. We can
Hold on.
mention that.
I would like to incorporate the results of others as much as I can. So we already have this the subgroup doing complex attestations.
Yeah.
Right. So I would much rather say the way you present evidence to the verifier will fall out of this work.
Yeah.
Rather than try and repeat it and invite arguments about it. We're basically saying, right? So so there is going to be sort of the architectural decomposition. The way you perform attestation, present evidence is done over here.
Yeah.
And now once you've done that, right, the interesting part is what do you do with it? And again, you guys probably know this better than I, but we already have like attested TLS or something else that basically says, here's a mechanism by which you can present a CSR to your verifier. Should we reference, like, incorporate that by reference as well? Or should this be specified here?
If you have a direct mapping of conveying attestation evidence in a certificate signing request, we should refer to that draft because that precisely talks about how to do that.
Yeah.
So Yeah, definitely. we
But
should
are
have
you
that.
aware of such a thing? Because my
Yeah.
recollection is vague.
There is an attested CSR draft already in ITF, which
Okay.
is let me see. I think it has gone quite progressed quite ahead in advanced stage. I think Henk is also aware of this, but yeah,
CSR attestation. Yeah.
CSR attestation.
Yeah, the context is CAs, and CAs have HSMs, and those HSMs do look nothing like a standard HSM that you think of a TPM or a TTX or whatever, SCV. But it's a whole box. It's a 19-inch server. So
That's entirely what
it's-
I think of when I think of an HSM. HSM
Okay.
has got to be something like that. It's got to fit 140 2.3 level 2 or 3 if it's a real HSM. None of your TEs and stuff. Yeah, that's a real HSM for me.
Yeah, and the goal of the CSR attestation is that you stop sending photos of the serial numbers before you weld it shut, and which is actually the thing how it's done.
Yeah.
And
I've done work on provisioning HSMs 20 years ago. It's horrible, but yes.
Yeah, and the idea here is to be better. So a side effect is that the CSR can now carry evidence about or attestation results. So you can use both models, the passport or the background check, about the trustworthiness of the requester of the CSR issuer. So you only issue certificates to a CSR that looks healthy to you. Or as intended to you, and that's the point. That's that is a mandate from the CAP forum to the IETF, which is in its last steps, and we are now bickering on details as the standards progress. But it is a thing how a workload, if a workload wants to acquire a identity document, it could issue a CSR, including its own remote attestation evidence or attestation results. So that is a possible building block here. Yes, if you want to go with the X509 realm.
Don't they have ASN1 requirements too with the HSMs?
Yeah. It's yeah. So the actual evidence is a CMW, can be a CMW. So that's why CMW structures now have an OID, because they're embedded in a CSR, which is not X509 but ASN1. Yes. Interestingly, so. But slowly and inching forward step by step, we are subverting ASN1 with CBOR and at some point it's gone. So.
Okay. Any other building blocks we can pull in that you can think of right now?
There's this thing, and Hannes Schofenig is often, so we try to model something here actually before we started the TWI SIG. And Hannes brought up the trustee model. Trustee is I want to say, a solution. It's out there, and it has this concept that a workload never is expected to be unencrypted. So it's always expected to be encrypted. And in order to get it running, you must be okay to decrypt it before running. So you show trustworthiness. And the trustee project, I want to say, call it like that. I am not super familiar with it, but I think in the CCC realm, they already had 1 or 2 presentations at the Tech Talk, what is it called, right? The TTT. And there, based on that, we nibbled at a document that tried to use CSRs and also an IDP that's outside, because it's managing the keys for the workload encryption, which is kind of external to the platform and where the workload actually are executed at the end. And so that's another thing we could pull in, or even have a look at. I recommended to invite Hannes, and have not reached out to Hannes, so that's not very good. I will see him next week again when we have a PKIX meeting about the CSR attestation.
Okay.
And make a note to
Hank,
invite him here.
Hank, are you when you talk about the trustee project, is that, are you referring to the confidential containers trustee or something? Is that okay?
I think so. Yes.
Okay, I'm part of the confidential containers project, so if we need to come here and present trustee, I guess we can do that.
Yeah, I think this is closely related. I'm not sure if the approach matches, but I think we can learn a lot from each other and understand where this should go. And for me, it's just too long ago. I might have missed the session or I might have forgotten it. Both possible, to be honest. And I don't know enough about trustee to make an informed decision. But Hannes was pretty convinced that this is a good example. And that you can build on that. So when Mark is asking for other building blocks, I think the trustee concept is one thing to at least look at.
So the timing, I guess. I very much welcome your presentation here, Sam. I'm just thinking maybe we should do this right after we finish our informational draft, so in 3 weeks. Because it sounds like we're going to have pretty intense working sessions. Just getting this informational draft over the line to submit, and then starting October 20th, you're more than welcome to come and give a talk, and
Sure.
I will see you guys on Thursday in your meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think we pretty much know what we're doing at this point in time. So Yogesh, you'll own putting the template in place. Start adding, throwing content as much as possible into this document now, and I will take it, to by next meeting, whatever I find in here, I will throw over into the or I don't know, thinking this is kind of easier. I think we found that Google Docs are easier to work on than MD files and pull requests and reviews and all of that. So maybe hold off moving it into MD files for another week.
For a certain time, for a certain time, it's true. At some point, becomes bothersome.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll continue working on this document. Again, the focus is solely on the main text. We don't care about the preambles. We don't care about references or appendices, security consideration, INA. None of that matters. Just going to get this in, and I don't think anything else needs to be discussed right now. But I look forward to your content, and I will see you all next Monday. Anything else before we wrap that you want to bring to the table?
I am not entirely aware of my availability this week. I should be able to make it. I might be in a train, and that is always a little bit of a bother, but I should be able to join.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Hearing nothing, I will see you guys all next week, and thank you so much for joining today.
Yeah.
All right. Take care.
Goodbye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.